I don't mean to be an alarmist, but we only have 2 months left of summer. And still on my agenda, hitting all 4 sections of the Cape. Upper, mid, lower, and outer, which admittedly, I had no idea even existed as different entities until the recent terrific Boston Globe series that focuses on the hits and a few misses of each of the regions. I'm joined by the 2 journalists who were tasked with painstakingly sightseeing and eating their way through it all. They bowled, they drank. They ate lobster rolls, they drank. They stayed at celebrated high-end accommodations and no-name low-end ones. They ate ice cream, and they drank. Globe travel writer Christopher Muther and Globe restaurant critic Devra First, who's joining us under a veil of anonymity, obviously to keep would-be restaurant bribers at bay. Christopher, great to see you. Devra, you look fabulous. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. So can we start with some general things? What was the genesis of this partnership, Christopher?
You know, I was thinking back on that as I was coming to the studio today, and I realized that Devra and I were having a flight of Pisco.
Yes.
And that's where we hatched the idea.
Really?
We should go to the Cape. We should do it in sections.
Really?
Yeah.
That's great. And Devra, obviously you had great trepidation to do anything with Christopher. How'd you overcome that concern?
It was difficult, but I managed. Actually, we had always wanted to collaborate, but we couldn't quite figure out the thing that made sense for us to both go do together. And then, as Christopher said, during the Pisco flight, inspiration struck.
You know, I have to be honest, I wasn't joking, but I had no idea there were 4 regions of the Cape, and I had never understood and still don't why upper is not lower and lower is not upper. I've only experienced 2, outer and lower. I assume a lot of viewers haven't experienced them all. I'm going to go down quickly, the 4, and can one of you just give me like a sentence or 2 on what you think distinguishes that region? Sure, I'd be happy to, Jim. Devra, starting with you. Upper, give me a sentence or 2. What distinguishes that part of the Cape?
Upper Cape. Well, you know, it's easy to get to, so it's good for like a day trip. And that's a nice thing to do. It's fun. You can go ride bikes around, which is something that we did, in fact, do. You can go drink some beer. There's a Treehouse Brewery there now. So if you just had a day and wanted to do a quick hit, you could do that there.
Okay, fine. So mid, give me a sentence on Mid Cape there, Christopher.
I feel like mid is kind of almost the residential area of the Cape. It's where like people who work on the Cape live, as opposed to sort of lower and outer, although maybe more outer. But there you'll find, you know, one of the great things that we did was like a sunset cruise. Like there's some wonderful beaches. It's, you know, kind of Kennedy country. There's also some really charming main streets for shopping.
And lower, since you mentioned lower, Christopher, take it away. Give me a sentence on lower.
Money. Can I just say money?
Money, that's
for
fine.
Lower?
And outer is money too, isn't it? I mean, Devra, I mean that, no?
I mean, there's certainly money there, but I would say more it's, you know, eccentric, people who really want to escape, or, you know, artists, writers. There's a big community of creatives there, and also the gay homosexuals.
Right, and stay one step ahead of the law. Of course, that's right.
Instead of creatives, she means gays.
Okay,
that's the bottom line.
Okay, so what we're going to do, one of the instructions I got from these 2, and I also read the series, the first line, it's not a best of. So with 2 exceptions, we're not going to say what's the best. We're going to say what made you feel happy or some such thing. So Devra, starting with you, since you're the food person, best seafood other than a lobster roll, quickly if you can. What was it? The whole Cape, any region?
You know, we went to this place called Epic Oyster, and we really enjoyed it. It brings in some of the Portuguese influences of the area, which is kind of a neat thing to get. But it's also a restaurant that you might go to, you know, in the city. It has sort of like, it has a real sensibility, a chef sensibility, nice wine. You can sit outside in the octopus garden and have
where is it?
oysters.
Where is it, Devra?
Epic Oyster is in North Falmouth.
North Falmouth, okay. So what was your favorite non-lobster roll? And by the way, if you say clam strips, I'm coming right across the table. Clam strips are not food. What's your favorite seafood other than clam strips and lobster rolls?
Clam strips.
Okay, thank you. No, I'm serious. What was it?
We had a really great tuna, was it tuna poke at, geez, Where was it, Devra? Do you remember?
Obviously
It was
had a
at-
real
it
impression
at
on you.
Mac
Where was
Shack
it?
in Wellfleet. I think that's the one you're talking about.
It is the one in Wellfleet. Yes.
And that was
Yeah.
good.
That was really good. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So let's recreational, and I mean other than beach. Obviously, people know beaches.
Right.
You know, from the drive-in to the golf. What was the recreational highlight, Chris, from you there?
I mean, for me, it was dragging Devra on things she didn't necessarily want to do.
Like what?
Kayaking. So in Chatham, we went kayaking, and I sort of took off and, like, jock that I am. And poor Devra, I didn't realize that she was so far behind that she was getting pulled out into the tides. Same with bowling. I mean, I really just rolled right over her,
So to speak.
so to speak.
Do you like the little balls? I grew up with the big. Well, actually, we
I-
probably shouldn't do this. Okay. Okay, so let's move
What was
on.
that about Providence?
Thank you,
Sorry.
Devra.
I would like to address one thing about bowling, which
Please.
is that I won 1 out of 3 of the games.
Oh.
So Chris may be exaggerating his extreme abilities in the bowling alley.
I am not
And,
surprised.
I would say I also really loved kayaking. That was my favorite, even though Chris did kind of drag me. I loved it. Like, I think I want to buy a kayak now.
Oh, well, it's pretty good. Now, I want to go to the 2 areas where you both gave me permission to ask you best of. So, Devra, starting with you, since you're the food person, not only ice cream, but my understanding is we focusing on peppermint ice cream in particular, or just best ice cream in general, Devra?
Well, so Chris and I both have this random love of peppermint stick
Oh,
ice cream.
good.
It's both of our favorites, and that is unusual in the ice cream lovers community. So we bonded over that and tried it really everywhere we went. And I believe that we agreed that our favorite was 4 C's in Centerville.
Marjorie Egan, my radio co-host, has been talking about 4 C's for 2 decades to me. Are you signing off on 4 C's too?
100%.
Why?
Yes.
What's so special about 4 C's?
So there's a perfect, like, candy to cream ratio that you have to find.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Because it has to be crunchy enough, but not annoyingly so. And also, you need to have 2 colors. They have to be green and red. You can't just have the red or the green. And then the pink can't be too artificial, but you need to have just a tiny blush of pink in the ice cream. And so if you have the flavor, the candies, and the creaminess, you have the winner, and that was 4 C's.
And 4 C's is where is it? Centerville? Or where?
Centerville.
Centerville, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so back to you, Devra. The other thing we're allowed to rate best of, lobster roll. What was the best and what did it cost and where was it from?
So I would say, I just want to clarify, this was my favorite of the trip, but I wouldn't say best of the Cape. So best of
Oh.
trip, we'll give it that. Is at a place that we sort of stumbled upon when we needed some refreshment during our bike ride called Seafood Shanty, which is in Bourndale. And the price of lobster is just really high this year. Fuel is expensive, so just be prepared for that. I think it was probably about $30, but it was giant lobster roll brimming with huge pieces of fresh lobster meat, just everything you want from a lobster roll. Not too much mayo, a little bit of crunch from lettuce, but that's really it. Just straight up giant amounts of big pieces of fresh lobster. And I've paid more than that for much lesser lobster rolls. So that was a nice surprise. It's just right on a busy road there, overlooking the canal. And Chris even tried it. And
What do you mean even tried it? You don't like lobster?
No.
What?
Yeah, but the clam strips there were really good. And the tartar sauce was
Oh, my God.
amazing.
It
By the
was
way-
actually the best tartar sauce of the trip. I do feel
Love tartar
comfortable
sauce.
saying that.
I make good tartar sauce, by the way, not that you asked. And by the way, what was my point about lobster roll? I can't remember. Oh, climate change is not helping with the price, not to mention the lobsters being in a region. Let's go to accommodation since you're the travel writer. Here's
Yes.
my takeaway from having read all 4 parts of the series, even the part that's not out yet, on Friday, is, correct me if I'm wrong, Devra stayed in high-end accommodations overlooking the water.
Yes.
You stayed in low-end accommodations overlooking parking lots. Is that is that a fair summary of your trip?
That's a fair
How
summary.
did that come about?
Deborah's a real diva, and therefore said, no, she did not say that. You know, it sort of
My
was.
rider.
It was supposed to be kind of like a 1 week I have the nice, the next week she has the nice,
But-
and we swap off. But I ended up picking really lousy places. Also, it's high season in the Cape, so it's hard to get, you know, last minute good accommodations. So there was one night where I was supposed to be in a nice place, and instead there were goats there, which I refer to as
In the room?
Not in the room,
Oh, okay.
but they were like on the property.
Yeah.
And goats are like Satan's lapdogs. They're like evil with those pupils. Meanwhile, Devra is like at a really cool, like hipstery hotel. And like my hotel was filled with like gross pine furniture. However, I will say some of the places that I stayed were not high end at all, but they were really like a good deal, like the Chatham Motel. Well, meanwhile, Devra's at the Chatham
Bar
bars.
Inn for what, like $4,000 a night?
Only $1,200 a night.
Was it really $1,200?
Yes.
And that was an extraordinary experience, I assume, Devra, yes?
It's hard in those moments
Yes,
for
the
me
answer is
to
yes.
not compare the price of a night to my monthly mortgage payment.
Okay. You know, I intended to go through cocktails. That's going to have to wait. You have to read the series, and coffee, which is the most important drink to me. Beaches we're not going to do, because even though you do it, I mean, everybody talks about it. I want to talk about a bigger issue, Devra, starting with you. Every article I read about the Cape, not yours in this, but every other piece I read, the first line, second paragraph, is about the shortage of workers in the service industry, and the Cape is all service industry. Did you guys encounter the same sort of problems, or did you not?
Yeah, it was really interesting because certainly people are having a ton of trouble finding enough help. And so you might find things like a really popular coffee shop in Provincetown on Commercial Street is closed on Wednesdays, things like that. But, you know, what everybody's saying is don't expect good service, you know, be kind to us. We're busy, we're understaffed. And the pleasant surprise for us was that really everywhere we went on this trip, we had excellent service.
Oh, really?
Attentive, kind, you know, sometimes it was green, but still, you know, it was like once they got trained up, it was going to be great. So that was a really nice surprise.
Christopher, were people a-holes, some of them, or not? I mean, we read all these stories about people screaming at young kids who were working at ice cream. Were people decent to other people?
From what I saw, there was no sort of customer rage going on, except when Devra walked into the place. But otherwise, it was like, I'm kidding. Otherwise, it was totally fine. And I think people's expectations are so low when it comes to service right now.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
That the fact that we had to wait a little longer, it was fine. And also, people were just flat out charming.
Before you go, Christopher, did you see a shark or did you not see a shark?
I saw a shark, yes.
And do you want to tell us where, or should we wait till Friday?
No, I'm fine to say it. It was in Wellfleet. My toes were in the water.
That's not true.
It is true. And
You were in the water when you saw the shark?
Well, my toes were in the water.
Oh, my God. And what was that experience like, quickly?
It was more panic than anything else. Not on my part. I mean, I only peed in my bathing suit, but
Great.
otherwise I was fine, yeah.
It's not the first time, believe me. Christopher Muther, Devra First. I love this series. I can't wait till the 4th installment. Everybody should check it out. And thanks for your time tonight, both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks.